Cross-multiplying can be used to get the same results as the LCD method when adding or subtracting fractions. To find the sum of 1/3 and 3/4, first cross-multiply numerators with opposite denominators to get the value of the numerator. 1 times 4 plus 3 times 3 equals 13, the numerator. Multiply the denominators to get the new denominator. 3 times 4 equals 12. The fraction becomes 13/12, which is then reduced to 1 and 1/12. To add 38 over 84 plus 4 over 76, use cross-multiplication. The numerator becomes 38 times 76 plus 84 times 4, or 3,224. To find the denominator, multiply the denominators. 84 times 76 equals 6,384. The fraction becomes 3,224 over 6,384, which reduced to its lowest terms of 403 over 798. To multiply one proper fraction by another proper fraction, place the product of the numerators over the product of the denominators. For example, 1/2 times 2/3 equals 1 times 2 over 2 times 3, or 2/6. 2/6 reduced to its lowest terms is 1/3. To multiply 3/16 by 4/64, multiply 3 times 4 for the numerator and 16 by 64 for the denominator. 3 times 4 equals 12. 16 times 64 equals 1,024. The fraction becomes 12 over 1,024. Reduce to lowest terms and the answer is 3 over 256. To multiply a fraction by a whole number, either of the two methods can be used. Method number 1. The numerator of the fraction can be multiplied by the whole number. For example, to multiply 1/2 by 6, multiply 1 times 6 for the numerator. 6 results. Place 6 over 2 and reduce by dividing 2 into 6. The result is 3. Method number 2. Divide the denominator by the whole number. For example, to multiply 3/6 by 6, divide the denominator 6 by the whole number 6. The fraction becomes 3 over 6 divided by 6. 3 is the correct answer. To multiply a proper fraction by a mixed number, change the mixed number to an improper fraction and multiply in the usual way. For example, 3/8 times 4 and 1/2 becomes 3/8 times 9 over 2. 3 times 9 equals 27 for the numerator. 8 times 2 equals 16 for the denominator. 27/16 equals 1 and 11/16. To multiply two mixed numbers, change both to improper fractions and multiply in the usual way. For example, 2 and 1/2 times 4 and 1/3 is multiplied as follows. 2 and 1/2 becomes 5/2 and 4 and 1/3 becomes 13/3. 5/2 times 13/3 equals 5 times 13 over 2 times 3, or 65 over 6. Reduced, this becomes 10 and 5/6. Cancellation can be used to simplify the multiplication of fractions. For example, Suppose we want to multiply 4/5 by 5/8. The numerator becomes 4 times 5. The denominator becomes 5 times 8. Both 5's can be canceled by dividing each by 5. 4 times 1 over 1 times 8, or 4/8 results. 4/8 is reduced to 1/2. To multiply 6/10 by 5/8, we get 6 times 5 over 10 times 8. By dividing the 5 in the numerator by 5, the 5 becomes a 1. By dividing the 10 in the denominator by 5, the 10 becomes a 2. The result is 6 times 1 over 2 times 8, or 6 over 16. 6/16 reduced to lowest terms becomes 3/8, the correct answer. The reciprocal of a whole number is 1 divided by the number. For example, the reciprocal of 10 is 1 over 10. The reciprocal of a fraction is the inverted form of the fraction. For example, the reciprocal of 2/5 is 5/2. If the products of two fractions equals 1, then the fraction is multiplied by its reciprocal. To multiply by a reciprocal of a number is the same as to divide by that number. For example, 8/5 times 5/8 equals 1, and 8/5 divided by 8/5 equals 1. To divide by 8/5 is the same as to multiply by 5/8. To divide a fraction by a fraction, invert the second fraction, thus making it the reciprocal, and multiply as usual. For example, divide 3/4 by 1/2. The reciprocal of 1/2 is 2 over 1. 3/4 times 2 over 1 equals 3 over 2, or 1 1/2. To divide 10/16 by 1/4, invert the 1/4 and multiply. 10/16 times 4 over 1 equals 10/4, or 2 1/2. To divide a fraction by a whole number, first find the reciprocal of the whole number and multiply. To find 1/2 divided by 10, invert 10 over 1 to its reciprocal 1/10 and multiply 1/2 times 1/10. 1/2 times 1/10 equals 1/20. To divide 1/3 by 13, invert the 13 over 1 to 1 over 13 and multiply. 1/3 times 1/13 equals 1/39. To divide 5/16 by 3, invert the 3 over 1 to 1/3 and multiply. 5/16 times 1/3 equals 5/48. To divide a fraction by a mixed number, change the mixed number to an improper fraction. For example, divide 4/5 by 3 1/2. Change 3 1/2 to the improper fraction 7 over 2. Find the reciprocal of 7 over 2 by inverting. 2/7 results. Multiply 2/7 by 4/5. 2 times 4 over 7 times 5 is 8 over 35. When dividing fractions, the dividend divided by the divisor equals the quotient. To check, the quotient times the divisor equals the dividend. For example, 1/2 is divided by 3 1/4. The quotient is 2/13. 1/2 is the dividend, and 3 1/4 is the divisor. To check, multiply the quotient 2/13 by the divisor 3 1/4. Change 3 1/4 to 13/4. Multiply 2/13 times 13/4. The 13s cancel to 1s and the 2 cancels to 1 while the 4 cancels to 2. The result, therefore, is 1/2. Since the answer is 1/2 and 1/2 is the value of the dividend, it is correct to say that 1/2 divided by 3 1/4 equals 2/13.